Evening and welcome to the November 11th Special Call Building Program. Leading the pledge tonight will be Mr. Corey Young. Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Odom, I guess you'll take it away.
I'm going to step around to the chair over there. We're going to look at some numbers and things to begin with.
Okay.
I think would be a good idea. I'll share with you first, this is something that you saw. If you're a good visual learner, charts and graphs kind of help us look at it a little bit. And you saw this when I did the State of the Schools address. It's every 2 years, going back to 2005 or so. James Evans has another chart, which we'll look at in more detail, but the growth in Rutherford County schools has been consistent and it's sustained over a long period of time. Looking at it in a little bit more detail, let's take a look now, if we could, at what it looks like. This comes from Mr. Evans' fact book, if you remember that one. The fact book goes back a little bit further for us to look at. So when you look at the numbers now, I'll point out a few things to you here, because when I show you the next sheet, it kind of will draw some contrast and something you can build on. The largest numbers that we really had was back in 2006-07, over 1,800 students enrolled in Rutherford County schools at about 5.65%. You're averaging around 1,000 per year, even with some of the slower years when the economy downed a little bit. But as you can see, the numbers have grown. Now, last year, this was a little anomaly. We talked about that. That's when Overall Creek opened. And so several that left or would have gone to Blackman or somewhere did go to Overall Creek. So that's kind of the anomaly, but that's gone. But if you look at your percentages, you can kind of see this growth. The next thing that I'd like to kind of take a look at, to add to that now if we could, I'd like to take a look at some of the current enrollment information. Let's kind of look at this one if we could. This is information that comes out of our student management system, iNow. 11/6 is the end of the third month. We talked with you about the third month. And yes, you as board members have copies of everything I'm showing you that's on the screen today. So this is a grade by grade, school by school numbers. Column at the top, one of them is the 14-15 numbers, and this number right here, K-12, is really our 15-16. The chart that comes really, we get from iNow, the student management system, kind of ends here, and we've added the other columns for you to see. And so there's the difference by school for you to look at and the percent change. One of the things that we found interesting, we've talked to you a little bit about this year, that we saw an unusually large number of high school growth. So I did add a column, the last column on the far right, high school growth this year, picked out the major high schools, and that's the growth that you see in this particular case. So looking at that one, you can kind of see how much we've grown. Now, there's two or three things that really did surprise me here. You know, the reason you had the Stewart's Creek out, we did the grandfathering, if you remember, at the time when we did the zoning. So they were grandfathered to stay at Smyrna High and Laverne High. And logic said that basically that when everybody could go, that would reduce the numbers maybe at Laverne High and Smyrna High. But if you go back up and take a look again at Laverne High again, you see that they still grew 94 students. Even on top of the fact that the zoning that changed. And you go to Smyrna High, and you saw again another pattern there. They grew by 121. So as of around the 6th of November, our high school numbers had increased by 887 students over the same period 1 year ago. So the column was 14-15 was at that third month period 1 year ago. So we're not looking at start of school comparison or anything like that. We're looking at same time period to same time period, what we're doing. The other factor that's kind of interesting, which gives us 42,656 students this year in Rutherford County Schools, whereas this time last year it was 41,283. And for the difference of 1,373 students. So if you go back to the chart we looked at before, it's been a while since we have seen that many students. And that really comes to a 3.3% increase overall. When Mr. Sandvig made the projections, we were doing the budget, and you recall that well. We said somewhere between 2.5 to 3, possibly 3.5. So it looks like it's on the high end of that. If you take the fact book, I looked at Mr. Evans' fact book projections we were making at this time last year. He does that in January, February. He puts out a new fact book. And the projection, we have passed the projection this year. We have more students than we projected 2 years out from that time. So the numbers have definitely returned. When you get 40,000 students and you start taking 3% and 4% of that number, very quickly you have a school per year. So the growth is here. Now, the ADM numbers, we will not get a full 42,656 average daily membership, and a couple of reasons to that. Some medically fragile students attend a partial day, doctor's notes, that sort of thing. You have to attend a full school day to earn 1.0 ADM. Each student is eligible for no more than that, but 1.0 ADM. You also have some high school students that went to night school, summer school. Some will graduate in December. They may be only taking 3 or 4 courses now rather than a full load of 6. So if they'll graduate, they're not earning 1.0 ADM. That's one of the things in some of the information I've been giving you that the BEP review committee said, because when the students are there at the first of the year, even if they graduate in December, you've had to set aside a book and a seat and all like that, kind of for that highest point. And so there is a recommendation to the Department of Education and to the legislature to look at helping school districts that have students that graduate at mid-year, part of that funding through the remainder of the year. Because typically ADM funding would have stopped, with the mid-year break. But we'll see, that was a price tag of a little over $5 million across the state of Tennessee, so it's somewhat significant. But questions, comments, before we kind of go into the actual building program, but questions or comments that you might have at this particular point that might discuss. Anything you noticed?
I'd say probably when we get towards the end, there's probably several.
That's what I was saying, but the focus as we look at it, if you just kind of making it easy for people at home maybe looking at, that's kind of your columns and what we're talking about. And one of the things that I say to you very often, we can kind of tell, this is the 5th grade, 2829, and in 6th grade, 3299. As we've said in a number of years, we do have quite a few Murfreesboro City students that come to us beginning 6th grade. And those that don't come at 6th grade, the remaining, we probably get 35 to 40% of their students at the 6th grade, but you see that number jumps again by almost 600 more. It's going 500 and 600 more at 7th grade, so that's the remaining students. So that's why you see that change in 6th and 7th grade, basically what we're talking about. But I guess our focus tonight is looking at the magnitude of the growth we're seeing and the percent of growth that's being maintained.
Mr. Odom,
Yes, sir.
one of the things that eventually I know you'll probably mention, but it's never reflected on here, are our pre-K students, and approximately how many?
400 to 500? Yeah, somewhere between 400. We can give it to you.
That's okay. Between 400 and 500. I think that that's important for us to consider. I mean, if we're talking about enrollment and attendance and things of that, because one of the things that could be discussed is the effectiveness of that pre-K instruction, which in Rutherford County, it is very effective because we're using it for students who have specific needs and then surrounding them with a select number of students that are good role models. And so it really, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is showing an improvement and an impact on those special circumstances. But it's something that is going to be discussed as far as funding for that going forward. Yeah.
You know, and again, just a reminder, under the federal law, we do have to pick up students with disabilities as early as 3 years of age, from 3 years of age until age 22. So some of those preschools are situations where we're picking up students that may be 4 years old, but they fall under the disability federal, so that's why we have to pick those up.
Right.
There are, is it 11 volunteer pre-Ks right now? That was the old governors. And those are different pots of money. It could be federal monies typically, or it could be state special that came with the voluntary pre-K. Hey, Mr. Clardy, I'll get out of the way, and you're back up again, I think, as we begin looking. I don't have the chart on here. No, okay. Everyone has a copy.
Another 417, that puts us over 43,000.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You know, it's just, and just a thought, as Mr. Sandvig says, if we grow all year and you start seeing the kind of growth that we're seeing coming March time frame or so, we'll have to do some budget amendments, very likely.
Okay.
I mean, it's just above our projections for what the year might have been, especially based upon last year, but we'll see. You want to kind of talk about the building program a little? If you'll get your 8.5 by 11 sheet. We again try to project out as far as 5 years, but as you know, that gets difficult because we're driven basically where developments occur. And so what may not be on our radar today, 2 years, 3 years out, if a major farm sells or development happens, we do have to review that again. And you will see some additions this year on there that we had not had in the prior year. One of those was when the Maples development and all at Buchanan occurred, then we have to come back and add that to it. So the document is a dynamic document, and it tends to change from year to year. But the commission did ask us to try to make a projection, if we could, out to 5 years so that you can look at total funding. And it really gets back to the situation. It's about a school a year again. Because when you're growing 1,300, that's more than an elementary school. It's more than any middle school we have now. You know, because our largest middle school is Blackman, the number's a little over 1,200, you can see on your sheet. So it's certainly this year is the equivalent of a school. You want to kind of go with some of the building plan, Mr. Clardy?
Yes, I also on the Buchanan Elementary Edition, I got those sketches back today, so
Okay.
we're getting in shape to present those to the board. Of course, we have the Rocky Fork Middle School clearing going right now on the 75 acres on Rocky Fork Road in Smyrna. So the next school is Rocky Fork Middle that we'll be asking for, complete school. And that will be opening in August of 17.
Let's talk about when we're gonna need to ask for funding on this. In order to do that, when you approve this, right after Christmas, we're gonna have to start the process. You know, they did not fund the building. They funded us to clear the land and do the pad for the two buildings. So we will have to go to the commission because of the health and ed, the budget and the finance, the full commission, that whole process. We're gonna have to begin it right after Christmas in order to complete it, to open in 17.
We've kind of been driven lately to keep pushing our jobs back and starting later and later. So we've got to try to draw that back in so we have enough time for design and a full year to get the schools built in. Smyrna Middle School renovation, as you recall, we've done several things down there, such as bleachers, windows, gym floor, just bunches and bunches, new heating system, all those types of things. But there's a lot of aesthetics need to be taken care of. It needs a facelift on it. Then the cafeteria needs to be expanded so they can feed their children faster than they're feeding them now.
Well, that building was, I should have brought my fact book tonight, but that's, what year, you recall, what was the year? No, Smyrna Middle, because you have it in your fact book, I should have brought.
59?
Because it was the old Smyrna High School, so.
I think it was constructed in 59.
Then the annex was added at some point.
Yeah, the annex, I think, was a career and technical section. It was just for,
We have the
59?
shop, yes.
Of course, we got the one building up there from the city of Smyrna
The library.
and have the library in it now, and it's remote from the other buildings with a canopy going out there, so the children get wet many times trying to get out there to the library to use it.
Smyrna Middle was 61.
1961.
Mr. Stanley?
We're about 46 years ago.
Just on the color coding, the yellow, our project's underway, totally funded. The blue cells, we have approved funding for. So we do have design money available for Rocky Fork Middle School.
Then opening in August of 18, Rocky Fork Elementary, and of course, we'll have the pad built for that. There'll be a need by that time with the growth. And then we also have the David Urey renovation. And still, this David Urey renovation doesn't have any classrooms in it. We want to secure the front of the building and give them some offices like the other schools have. And with that being said, a lot of the, through rezoning or whatever, many of those children will be over at Rocky Fork after it's opened up. So we don't see any need of adding classrooms to that, to David Urey at the time we do this.
Mr. Holliday, that's been one of yours for several years that you've discussed.
It has, and when we talk about priorities, okay, it's not classroom space, but it is student security. It absolutely is, so.
And to get rid of the portables too. I mean, that's the other thing we're trying to do. And that, it's gonna take the Rocky Fork Elementary really before we can get out of the portables there.
Yeah. before we leave the Rocky Fork Elementary, if we can for just a moment, because I don't think we're going to get into it specifically elsewhere. At John Coleman, we're going in the direction of a two-story elementary. Now, there are design efficiencies for sure of repeating elementary design that we have elsewhere in the county. We're familiar with it. It works well. All of those things. It's expandable. There are good reasons. At John Coleman, we're going two-story because of the land space that we have. But that being said, two-story is less expensive to build. It's way out in the future, but what ideas do we have, or you, Mr. Clardy, personally, what ideas do we have about Rocky Fork Elementary and the trade-off of two-story construction versus existing design?
Well, I thought that with John Coleman being kind of a transition, we would try to move on to the two-story building. And that would free up funds for some energy conservation, such as LED lighting in the parking lots, all through the building on the outside lights, and those types of things with a full digital control system in the buildings.
Okay.
And we're gaining on the energy situation. We're making progress. We have $700,000 worth of digital controls going in at this time that were funded through Energy Efficiency School Initiatives as a loan with a yearly administration fee that's very small. So I think we need to move to the two-story building. We need to start doing a better job of using more and more energy efficient equipment, although it's more expensive. Go to the lights. Of course, we're doing the sensors and those types of things now. But we're being faced with an issue, as Mr. Odom was talking last night, with all of these things becoming available digitally, like the books. I don't know if people realize it or not, but that means more computer equipment, better connections, better switches in the schools. So, the energy that we save in these schools can help to fund that and other things. So when we hear the thing that, the commission's going to cut back on funding of the computers, it's only going to get worse on that end. So we've got to try to keep that stream of money flowing so we can meet the future needs that are coming.
Excellent.
You talk about the next two items, and those are new. It's the Veterans Parkway property and Amelville Road property. We just becoming aware of how quickly now Veterans Parkway is developing up. Our issue is that Rockville Middle is virtually full. You got Christiana and Blackman Middle, you're at over 1,200 now. As that area continues to grow, I can see out in 3-4 years, we're not going to have middle school capacity in that area. So we talked about, actually when we purchased Rockville Middle, or that was purchased, with the pad for the high school, Rockville High School also, we really didn't purchase a property to do the addition to that like we've done at Blackman. So I'm not sure we really got the option of putting an addition at Rockville Middle like we did at Blackman. So that, and if that certainly is the case, then that magnifies even more that somewhere in that sector, there will need to be another middle school. You start getting into 17, 18, that's going to happen. The Amelville Road property is new, and that was because of the approval of developments out as far as Independence Hill Road. There's sewer supposed to run along Amelville Road all the way out to Independence Hill, and they're going to sell taps along the way for other developers and all. So, you can tell that is shaping up also. I was hearing more than 1,000 houses, not all built at once, but that's definitely gonna make a difference there. So I think we have to think about where would we put a school somewhere in that area. You already know the size, you can see from your other sheet, what's at Stewart's Creek Middle. Stewart's Creek High's hit that 2,000 now in all too, so, and that may be, the Amival Road property may be one of those situations again that we look at purchasing, is that an elementary middle, or is that an elementary middle or high, and high? You know, I mean, that's some decision based upon what's property might be available, but as we've done recently, we've looked at property purchase to handle more than one school complex. Parents really do enjoy that. But anyway, that's two new ones there. Any comments or anything on that you?
I was just going to say that the two-story buildings also makes more property available for additions and annexes and that type of thing. Move on to,
Yeah. Mhm.
and a middle school to set on the land at Veteran Parkway. And Mr. Odom just said that with Rockville Middle reaching its capacity, we're already setting portables out there. And the way that that property is developing, we're going to need a middle school out in that area. Buchanan Elementary addition with the subdivision that's going in across the street over there with several hundred houses. We're going to need some room there, and of course, we're developing a plan for that right now at this time, and to look at those and address those, and I'll bring those forward at a meeting once we get them where we think we need to be. And that would be a two-story addition on that building.
And that's one that may not hold that long. That may be one of those. If the other property out there, what I think was Jennings Jones Property Development, if that one were to start quickly too, depending upon what's kind of unknown to us, would any of that be annexed as city, become city schools? You know, again, we play that game of not knowing for sure how much or what level of responsibility we might have. So that certainly would have the potential of having to be moved up a year or so. I can see that. Really hate to go back and put portables back at Buchanan after we just moved them away. You know, don't want to do that.
If you'll recall, we ran sewer out there to the Whitworth Buchanan School. Of course, the city will not put sewer unless it's annexed. That's one of their rules, unless it's annexed into the city. So that property where the sewer is all annexed into the city. So, and all they've got to do is go out there and start making connections and building houses, roads and houses. So it's coming, we just don't know when. And then Joe B. Jackson will continue right through that piece of property, go out and hook up on Woodbury Road. So it's going to be a lot of, you'll be able to get from one side of Murfreesboro all the way out to the other side on Joe B. Jackson. Then Oakland Middle Annex, I've got a motion written up for that piece of property. We're in the process of getting ready to close that deal once it's approved by the board. So we are thinking that we're full over there now. We have portable set up, so we're hoping that we can make it until the August of 19 to open that annex up.
We have some capacity. We have some capacity at Whitworth Buchanan. If you look at that middle school, if you look at the numbers there, there is some capacity there for that one, but not additional capacity for Oakland, nor at Siegel.
And yeah, that's the other problem, is Siegel, and any kind of little burst of students pouring in there will just overflow at both of those schools. And there's no way to add on to Siegel Middle. We don't have the property.
We don't really have the property there. It's very limited.
It would not be easy because of you'd have to be taking up their ball fields or something if you did.
Maybe the football field back there on the back.
Oakland Middle just keeps.
They actually did, if you look at your sheet for growth this year, they actually stabilized some this year. But that may be a one-year anomaly.
You mentioned the motion that you have written up. Will we look at that tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then we moved down to 2020 with Rockville High School. And the reason for that, Mr. Odom can probably tell you, but I'll give you a little synopsis, is that Blackman and Riverdale are full. And with housing coming out there at Veterans Parkway in those areas, we need to get some more high school seats out there, and maybe that'll have to probably be doing some rezoning when the time comes to the high school out there. But
Everybody loves that term.
I know it's as painful it is, sometimes it's the only solution.
Yes, sir.
And then land in the area out on 231 North to take care of some issues we have out there, and that's part of that Siegel issue, being overcrowded, to get some property to build a middle school out there later on, and maybe even an elementary school, so we can take care of that whole area out there and the area between Siegel and North 231.
Well, you'll get to it again.
And as we go on out to 2021, talking Amelville Road Middle School area, Amelville Road Elementary School, the Siegel High School addition, the Laverne Middle School addition, and you all have seen that several times. It's in our booklet, so. And then we have the bleachers for Laverne High School and Smyrna High School, restrooms and concessions.
How many seats will the Eagle High Addition add?
We'll add 12 classrooms, 350 students. So,
We have portables there already too, but it still has a little bit of capacity. If you look at the Siegel High this year had 1814. You really have three schools that are 2,000 or just there. It's Blackman High, Oakland High, and Stewart's Creek High. So you've got all of those really either at 2,000, over 2,000, or right at 2,000.
But even those that are under 2,000, they all seem to have portables. So,
I think one of those issues, and we were discussing that today a little bit, and I was discussing it with Mr. Zago, is that the way the classes and things are arranged now with CTE and some of the other classes, we don't have our teachers' maximums met. There's some averages that are below 30 kids per room in many of the classes. And you get into the situation where if you put 30 students in every classroom, you would have room. But when you start putting 18, 25, because of the diversity of the classes that are offered, run out of room.
There are other projects that certainly need to be here, that are not necessarily of this level, but Mr. Wayne's out there from Riverdale, is those restrooms and girls' restrooms there, and Oakland was built at the same time, and there's certainly, that's 1972 vintage, and so then there are many other projects that, and sometimes in the past, the commission has allowed us at that time to piggyback, for better of another term, some other smaller projects of revamping at the same time that we were building a major building. We didn't, Mr. Clardy maintains that list. We didn't put all of those on this list because it gets so lengthy and becomes real scary when people look at it. But as you look at the projects here, I mean, you could begin to see where, this, looking right away at 40 million, and 50 million plus. That's what we're talking about. And it's a conservative plan based upon the growth, and I'm not sure it will hold the growth even at this. We've added on to about everywhere we could. I mean, with the Blackman, we've gone places and added additional space, and we're running out of those options. We've done that for about 2 years. Your Eagleville change out there, so many things that we've done, but you can just do that so much. You just don't, when you core capacity and other things just does not allow you to continue to add in a lot of places. So you have to start looking at new buildings and sometimes new locations. I think you want to look at the next one, is your last one down there, which is the 21. February of 21, some projects we have listed there.
I just went through.
Okay. That one.
I think Mr. Hodge had some comment.
I'd like to see that moved up to, I'm willing to forgo this next year, move it up to 17. I think this is probably the 7th year it's been brought up. And I think it's as a board member, I think it's my obligation to cover the needs down there just like we do on this end. And I think those people, I think they're all deserving of it. And if you've ever been to a football game down there, you probably pretty well know what I mean. They're lacking on the restaurants and concessions. And I could probably get by, I could probably accept the bleacher part of it. I don't know what kind of cost you're looking at on bleachers. What kind of cost you looking at on the bleacher end?
I believe we estimated those at about $500,000 each.
You could build restaurants and concessions comparable to Oakland, Riverdale, and Seagull and all them for $1.5 million. I just feel it's something we need to move forward on. I hate to have to kick back every year. And at least if we put it up there, the commission wants to kick it back, let them kick it back. But I think it's something that needs to be done. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but I've dealt with this, like I said, year after year.
We could just find a way to get those restrooms moved away where it's,
That's security issue.
that, I mean, they're just, they're packed in so tightly in our, with all these 6A schools. We have huge crowds at these events and really need to find a way to fund those restaurants.
The funding body, they've never been down there for football. I challenge them to go down there and look. Go down there and see it. And after the football game, come away telling me that they don't need it. I've been down there too many times, both of them.
Yes.
And I just feel that strongly about it. And I just take to see it put off till 2021, which is 10 years. I mean, it'll be a 10-year deal. What they've been waiting for. And if you put it 2021, you may not get it then. So.
I sense that you're going to make a motion here in a minute, and I'll have to say that I know on Health and Ed, can't remember exactly, but we discussed this at least 3 different years, and it almost made it once. I mean, it was right there. but it didn't. And I hated it, and I think Health and Ed hated it. I think they wanted to do it. They just couldn't see their way clear to the money, perhaps. But you can't promise somebody, Health and Ed or the commission or us or anything, that we are going to do something next year. We will do it. You can't promise that. But we came pretty close to it. We did. And that this absolutely would be a priority, you know, and here we are. And what I'm talking about is 2 years later, and we're looking at 5 more years. And I'm hoping Mr. Hodges is going to make a motion here, and if he does, I'll second it to move it back. If he doesn't, I'll make it. But go ahead, Mr. Hodges.
They definitely need restrooms concessions, I think, in a fairly quick manner, so, I'd like to see it moved up to August 17th.
I'm going to second it, and I hope it's done without amendment. Let's do it all.
We have a motion and a second. With the lack of success we've had with the funding body on these two ventures, I'm just wondering out loud, would we be better off pursuing it, you know, with the restrooms and the concession stand without the bleachers? Because we continue to fail in our initiative with the bleachers attached.
Well, that's, and I don't disagree with that, and Mr. Hodge can speak to it or anybody else for that matter, and it's entirely possible that might work. But we can face that at committee. We don't have to face that tonight. I think we ought to ask for this figure right here, move it, as he said, next year, 2017, and but I do think that, and as you well know, particularly being a Smyrna guy as you are, and I was at Laverne for a long time, the problem is mixing of the two crowds. There's just not enough space. And Smyrna seemingly always in the playoffs, and they always have huge crowds down there. Every time I go, it's huge. And I didn't go to Laverne this year, so I don't know. But they just missed. They made the playoffs. They didn't host a game though, did they? They didn't host a game. So I mean, the problems are there, and when people have to leave their side of the field to go to the other side to get a Coke or go to the restroom or whatever, and that's why I'd like to see it all at least before we get to committee, keep it together. That's just my opinion. That's just me.
Understand? Any further comments?
I think it's essential as well. I think it's been our reputation with the county commission to give them essentials. We don't pad our budgets. We don't pad our projects. And the bleachers and concessions and restrooms are essential in order to present a equitable offering of what football is between what we see at Riverdale, Siegel, Oakland, versus what we see at Smyrna and Laverne.
Mr. Blair,
Yes, sir.
is this motion for the entire worksheet through 2021?
No, he's just.
No, this is moving that up. Is that right, Mr. Hodge? Further discussion before we vote? Everybody understand the motion, that we're moving the restrooms and concession stands and bleachers up to 2017, is that correct? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Hodge.
Along those same lines, do we anticipate that a Rockville High School is going to have any measurable impact on the enrollment at Stewart's Creek? The way I see it, it's too far away. there'll be some cascading effect, but I don't see that it's going to have that impact. And the reason I bring that up is capacity is going to be exceeded at Stewart's Creek. And if we're talking about an expansion at Siegel in August of '21, we need to be talking about an expansion potentially at Stewart's Creek, because we'll be way past 2,000. We're at 1,900 now at Stewart's Creek, and you want to talk about a hot market of where it's going to be growing. That's where it's going to be growing. Now, yes, we're talking about Almaville Road, elementary and middle, up here in the 18 budget, but those students have got to go to high school somewhere, and you know, a measure of those will be going to Stewart's Creek. I kind of see, I understand that what we've presented here is 24 million in 16 and 43, which is now 45.5 in 17, and then we dropped to 41. I like to see a little more even approach, and I'm asking for some feedback. Is there logic to the kind of backloading of this 5-year plan at 78 million out there at 21? Are we better served to present 50 million in 18, 60 in 19, 65 in 20, et cetera, rather than padding it all out there at the 21 budget?
One of the things that sometimes we fail to recognize, and I fail to recognize it myself, is that Stewart's Creek High School is 60,000 square feet bigger than any other, than Siegel, for instance. So we actually, through the CTE program, are those included in these figures? We have 60,000 square feet of capacity back there that some of the other schools don't have. So it will actually take more students. I don't know how many, but
We need to know how many.
yeah.
Because if capacity at Stewart's Creek is 2,400 as opposed to a 2,000, then that certainly does, create a different circumstance.
I would say that it's in the area of 2,400, but the mix has to be right, to get them in there.
Right. And if it's all CTE, if we're going to have to cannibalize CTE, state-of-the-art CTE that's there in order to keep math and English going, then we're still in need of expansion, because the CTE program at Stewart's Creek is effective and it drives graduation rate, so as it does at every school. So,
The issue again with Rockvale, Blackman is going to find itself in the middle also again, because as you open the Rockvale High School, it's going to pull from Blackman again. We moved from Blackman because they were the 2,400, if you remember, state's largest high school before Stewart's Creek, and we cascaded some of those down to Stewart's Creek. So what's going to happen again when you get Rockvale open? It'll either be cascading, some of Blackman will leave, they'll be cascading some Stewart's Creek back to Blackman or something. I mean, if you live in that area, it's going to be fluid for the next several years, depending on which area grows quickest. And unfortunately, we're going to find ourselves rezoning again in that area. I mean, that's what's going to happen. But that may, we looked at that and talked about that a little bit, Mr. Holliday, but it was a little bit of that fact, if we get the Rockvale on, that may produce some of that capacity. But again, in that Almaville area, if we could find enough land, it certainly would make sense to have the triplex again.
okay.
You're gonna wanna walk away tonight with the
We do. We need to, I do, certainly to do something to go ahead and get Rocky Fork funded. We got some design, but try to do that, and then to see what they do. Of course, I know the commission's facing judicial. They remind us
Yeah.
every time we go up there. It's a whole nother issue for them. But,
What does the Almaville Road property look like if it's triplex as opposed to elementary and middle? Instead of three and a quarter, Is that a $5 million land purchase?
It could be, 4 to 5 million maybe. Be 100 acres. And, it could be anywhere from 30,000 to 50,000 an acre.
We don't have capacity, we don't have any opportunity to further expand Blackman High, am I right?
There's a little bit of room out there. But, we expanded it without expanding the core last time.
Right,
So it just takes some study to
Okay.
figure it out.
Mr. Jordan, did you have a comment? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think Mr. Odom went that way when you were talking, Mr. Holliday, about should we move some projects into these earlier years. We are very mindful from going to the meetings, and Ms. Nolan made a debt presentation at last Thursday's Budget Committee meeting. The Judicial Center is the other big project that they are looking at multi-year funding on. So I don't think we have an aggressive plan here at all, because when we are getting 1,300, how many more students a year is it going to hit? 1 year of school, one school a year, and these additions are what it's going to take to cover us.
I understand the point you're making, and I'm already in touch with it, and my only concern is that when we make that decision based on circumstances that are really circumstances of the county commission, when we're making judgments of we're going to hold back so that we leave room for the judicial center, then it's an inappropriate decision on our part. It may be good stewardship as citizens of the county. It may be excellent, foresight as to what's actually going to take place. But when we take that back and when we hold it back, then we eliminate the discussion where the discussion should be held at the county commission. We're going to have to intentionally reduce the school budget this year and hold off on a project so that we can get the judicial center done, but we understand it means we're going to have a $78 million ticket on a different year when we've got to catch up. And so if we create the situation where we create the catch-up circumstance, then we then present ourselves in a place where when we say, hey, we got to catch up, they say, what are you talking about catch up? We've given you $40 million every year. And so that's the only thing is I totally understand, and I know exactly why we're doing what we're doing. I just wonder if it's the right strategy. Let them put a star by it and say this is a project that can be pushed back or something like that. At least we have that conversation in open.
We didn't really try to hold back. We tried at the time, you remember, for the Rocky Fork Middle.
Right.
We were hoping they would fund for us then, go ahead and construct the building so that there's not any delay. The problem, now is, I don't know whether you could get the middle school and everything done. 17 is about as early as you can do it. So the next 2 years, there are 2 schools, Rocky Fork Elementary, Rocky Fork Middle. We got a school a year right there in those particular 2 years. You could try to put another one on it, but it certainly does change your mathematics.
I think Mr. Sandig is probably closer and more cognizant of the county commission, maybe, than anybody in the room. And I have sympathy for him. He covers the back door, the front door. He's at every meeting. With that said, though, my compliments, but with that said, I think what Mr. Holliday said is absolutely probably, no, not probably. You can't have absolutely and probably in the same sentence, can you? Absolutely correct. I really feel, and I feel that we are here to state what our students and our teachers, our county, our school system really needs must-haves and when, and it's not our job to, the discussion, as Mr. Holliday just put it a minute ago, needs to take place past us. And then, of course, we're going to have to be able to back it up with the facts and figures, which this man over here can do as well as anybody that I ever worked with. And I have to say, Mr. Gill wasn't bad, and Mr. Watson wasn't bad either. So you know, you got to make your case and explain. But I think I think if what we ask for is what we absolutely need for our system, and back it up with facts and figures.
And one of the things, which is part of our job as we are meeting with the committees, and you may remember from your health and income, however this is passed, we will go and say, now, this is built upon growth in this range. If we see an acceleration, and Mr. Odom mentioned, what I always look at, like as you get into 7th, 8th, 9th months, I'm looking at, is our growth rate accelerating in the 8th month over what it was 6th month to the previous year's 6th month. When we see those trends, and we caution the commission, all of this can change. If our growth slows, we might be able to pull back. If it picks up, we could wind up back that year where we got approval for 3 schools, and then the construction prices came in so high there was only enough money for 2. So one got delayed a year. But
Mr. Young?
I look at that as they were underestimated.
Yeah.
I got it circled.
That could go up a year.
And that's what I was gonna mention too, is the one glaring thing that just sticks in my craw is that both Oakland and Siegel are over capacity right now. And it wouldn't take much for them just to
That on the Company Road area, there's a large farm on the left, where the state, been talking about 231 North development, so that area's about to get hit hard, I'm afraid, and I just don't see how we can wait this long. I'm really not comfortable with the plan that we got right here tonight. I think we really need to have a little more. What do we have to approve tonight in order to get through?
I mean, you can bring it back to your December meeting or any other time that you want to do. I mean, we can do anything that you want to do. We'd like permission, you know, come January to start the process up here for the Rocky School and all, to begin that process for sure. That's the
Is
issue.
it the will of the board, let's take Mr. Young's recommendation and let's revisit this again in December, have some time to study and communicate with Mr. Odom and Mr. Clardy?
Well, let's continue our discussion tonight if we can, Mr. Chairman.
But I mean, as far as.
I've got no problem with putting it off till December, no, none. And maybe kind of echoing what Mr. Young has just said, these figures on our high schools are, well, I don't know, you used the term scary a minute ago with some of these figures. I mean, we're right back with overcrowding just about where we've always been 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we we're going to build Stewart's Creek, and it's in its, third year now? And, I mean, we're right back up, and he's right about Blackman. He's exactly right. I had hoped to discuss with this board at one time that we might consider building a high school at Rockvale for 1,000 students. and making the core big enough to handle maybe 1,800, but start with a 1,000-student high school. Well, that's not going to work.
Nope.
There's no way. A year ago, I thought I was pretty smart, but even though y'all knew different. But I look at this right here, and hey, if we did that, and we'd be within a year, we'd be right back where these figures are right now. I mean, now I do have some questions. Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
The $7 million for renovation at Smyrna Middle, I'm sure you're about to convince me, somebody is, that's absolutely necessary, and I'm not necessarily against that. But that's a lot of money. When a middle school costs $30 million, $7 million is a lot, $7.5 million almost, is a lot of money to put into renovations. What are we going to get for that? What's going to happen in Smyrna Middle for that? And I know they need it. I do know that.
We'll get a complete facelift on the building, plus the core will be expanded, and get rid of the portables there.
They'll end up with.
And we haven't designed that yet and really
Okay.
taken a hard look at it. But the issue we're running into is the farther these things are out, the more they're going to cost, unless the bottom falls out of everything, and then there's not going to be anything to fund it with. So it's a double-sided sword. So that's the reason that, you know, it may come in a little bit cheaper, but prices are rising right now. They're going through the roof. And when plywood was $6.50, now it's $10.50.
Well, let me continue my questioning just on that very thing, if I may, Mr. Clardy. I'm sorry, Mr. Holliday. Do you want to say something?
No, prices are rising.
The Rocky Fork is about $35.5 million, just to touch over that. But 2 years later, the Veterans Parkway is just $100,000 more, but there's a 2-year gap in there now. Maybe we're not building the same school size-wise, I don't know, but that doesn't reflect much price increase at all.
The land is on a separate line.
Okay.
That's the difference.
All right. That carries me to the high school then. Stewart's Creek High School costs what? $47 million? Something in that neighborhood? Okay, we're going to wait. They're in their third year, and we funded it and borrowed the money 2 years before that, so that's 5 years to pay for that high school. Now it's 5 more years, but this figure right here shows that we're going to build Rockville for 54. That just doesn't seem possible to me. I thought prices went up like 5% a year on construction.
We got less site work to do, and the site's in much better shape out there because we spent the money on it early on. So than Stewart's Creek. So we've also got a lot of borrowed material out there that we can use if we need to, side of the mountain, blast off.
I didn't think the Stewart's Creek borrowing that we did, that $47 million figure included the pad and the site work and everything.
Well, there's a lot of site work done on it, but it still required more.
Well, don't get me wrong. If we can get it for $54 million, that's that's a bargain. $54 million in a bargain. That doesn't really dovetail, but I guess we go with it.
And the issue is that regardless of what figure you put down there, it's going to change anyway.
I agree with that. Yeah, and it's not going to go down
So,
unless the economy gets bad.
As time goes along, then you adjust those up and continue to adjust them.
Well, are we looking at building a Rockville High School that looks like Stewart's Creek? I mean, it's going to have what Stewart's Creek's got? Is that what we're looking at?
We need to look at the program again and see. I know you do have an extensive CTE program and all there. You have to look at, you still have Eagleville there, which handles some of the ag and some of the other things and all. So when that decision comes, are you gonna be sharing some students? Are you gonna have some that students might choose one or the other? I'm not sure it will be as an extensive in some of that area as maybe Stewart's Creek.
You know, Stewart's Creek's got cosmetology and veterinary and pet grooming center and a courtroom, and are we looking at all that? I have no objection to it, I just want to know, are we looking at that for Rockvale?
Criminal justice and all would.
When I did the estimate, it's probably 30,000 square feet shy of Stewart's Creek.
Okay, thank you.
Would there be support on the board for changing the Almaville Road property from elementary and middle to elementary, middle, and high, and making the figure 4.75? I understand that we're going to go back and scratch our heads a little bit and very likely put this off until December, but as others have said, let's not lose the opportunity to go ahead and execute something. I so appreciate what Mr. Hodge has done in moving the Laverne and Smyrna project up into the 17 budget, and I just wonder before we move on tonight, have we heard enough? Do we see enough? With 7% average high school growth this past year, there's certainly justification for us to say that it's not time to build a high school in Almaville, but it's certainly appropriate for us to say Blackman's going to need the relief. We need to buy the land for a high school in the Almaville area.
Mr. Hodge?
No, they're not, they're needing relief, but also Smyrna and Laverne are gonna need it also, so, I think if the land becomes available, I think it probably be a pretty smart move on our part, to possibly look at that, and, whether we build a high school, on out a little bit, at least we can do the pad and the whole thing, do the pad and everything just like we have right away, so.
With that word, Mr. Hodge, I appreciate that. I'll make the motion then that this evening we change the Almaville Road property, leaving it in the 18 budget from elementary and middle to elementary, middle, and high school as a triplex, and update that number to 4.75.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? And we all have our crystal ball out tonight, so doing the best we can with it. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can we do something on the Rocky Fork Middle School tonight? Is there a discussion linking that with anything else that, and maybe the Smyrna Middle? In other words, to 17, or do you want to wait?
Didn't we have an original motion from this board for the funding of Rocky Fork Middle back when we took it before?
I think
We may need to do it again, but I think you've honestly kind of approved it, but if we need to,
I do not, and Mr. Jordan, you have a better feel for this. I don't know how open, I think the Health and Ed Committee would prefer having an approved plan that we bring to them before we go forward with that request.
The
I
blue,
think we have authorization from y'all to go forward with it. The blue has been approved, yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, but they did not approve the funding for the furniture, fixtures, equipment, or the construction. They told us to come back on that one.
I understand that, but we've already taken it to them.
Yes, sir.
And our desire is to take it to them in December or take it to them in January?
They're not meeting full schedules in December, so.
Yeah, they're meeting December 9th for Health and Education Committee, which is which would be after Budget Committee, I believe. I think Budget Committee will be the
They had changed their calendar. and I can't
4th
remember exactly.
of December, maybe.
Well, with that said then, it gives us time to be able to approve this plan at our December meetings and then let it accompany our request in January. So we're back to Mr. Young's suggestion that we table this if there's not other discussion.
You may want to go ahead and move that Oakland Middle up, so when we produce you a new draft, based on what you've done tonight, it'll be closer to what your final would be. That makes sense to me, because I think Mr. Young is correct with the Compton Road development and possible more out off of 231, which may be considered tonight. That may need to be, go ahead and moved up. That's my thought.
I would agree with that. Mr. Young, would you consider it a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we move that up to 18.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? This is just one that just really was glaring. Yeah, so, thank you.
Should we read the motion?
I'm sorry.
We read the motion?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Moving the Oakland
Oh,
Middle.
you want to do it? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion made by Mr. Young, seconded by Mr. Terry, to move the Oakland Middle School to 2018.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Hodge.
I was gonna ask Mr. Jordan, on the Rocky Middle, Rocky Fork, are you good with that? Right there, that year and everything? Bill?
Rocky Fork Middle School?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
okay.
And we need another approximately 32 million of them, right? Well, we've got about 3 million approved. So we need an additional 32 million, and I was under the impression that you wanted that tonight. That's why I said if there's no controversy.
I would not take it to January, I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
Simply because they were, but by January, we wanted to be able to deal with it. But we don't have our January meeting set, so if we do it in December though, we'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do. Mr. Young?
Sure can. Give you a new portable list.
And we haven't purchased any new portables in several years, have we?
The last ones, the year that 3 schools were approved and we only had money for 2, that was the last year we purchased any portables.
There's 6 classrooms that Oakland is single middle that we discussed, portables. There's 6 classrooms, they have a couple of doubles. And Smyrna Middle has 11 classrooms in it, 11 portables there at the moment. To help you, Mr. Young.
We'll give you the whole
I have
list.
that in front of me.
If we ever retire a portable, I definitely want that to be reported to the board. Okay? Because when we kill one, I want to celebrate. That's all right. That's all right. I still want to celebrate.
Are we still at 146 on portables?
That's correct.
Okay. Any further comments or suggestions or discussion regarding the building program? We're going to bring this back up for further discussion and hopefully a vote at the December meeting.
That's December 10th.
December 10th. Does that work?
Well, I think it'd be fine.
Okay. All right. December 10th. Anything else, Mr. Odom?
We've got some other items that's on the agenda tonight.
Is that okay, board members? We move away from the building program now?
The next one is request Siegel School football storage building. You have a request letter there. Principal Kim Stoker has requested permission to build a football storage facility on her campus. The 20 feet by 28 feet pre-engineered metal building will match the existing buildings and be built on a slab. The total cost of the building is estimated approximately $5,000. The school will be responsible for following all state and local codes. The building will be on the northeast end of the football practice field, outside the existing fence, and funded through the Siegel Middle School football school account at no cost to Rutherford County School Board. Engineering and construction partner has reviewed the plans and location, and everything is in order. All paperwork has been completed. Recommend approval of the motion to approve construction of a football storage building at Siegel Middle School as presented at no cost to the board.
The recommendation?
Second.
Did you get those, Ms. Joyce? They're a little quick for me. The million-dollar question is, this will have I know it's a metal building, but it'll also have a metal roof, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
The $500,000 question is, no utilities are required? Are we comfortable with that?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
It's storing football equipment in it.
Don't even need a light.
There's a possibility it could, but
Okay, I
that'll
love,
be their issue. It's not ours. They're gonna have to pay for it if they get it.
I understand, but I love your form here, the application for campus construction project designed to help keep us out of trouble. And we've seen other projects where utilities have come back to be a problem for us. The statement is no utilities will be required.
Working on your crystal ball?
By the way, that's in now, and they paid for that.
Very good.
Okay, further discussion? Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
It is the second one, which is I think maybe number 4 on your tab. Siegel Middle School restroom building. Principal Kim Stoker has requested permission to build restroom facilities on her campus to service both baseball and softball. There will be both men's and women's restroom and a player's restroom added in a building dimension to be approximately 7 feet by 24 feet. The masonry building will match the existing buildings with a metal roof. The total cost of the building is estimated at approximately $26,000. The school will be responsible for following all state and local codes. The building will be funded through the Siegel Middle School Baseball Booster Club and a grant from the Richard Siegel Foundation at no cost to the Rutherford County School Board. The engineering and construction department has reviewed the plans and location. Everything is in order. All paperwork has been completed. Recommend approval. The motion to approve construction of the restroom building at Siegel Middle School is presented at no cost to the board.
Board members, do you want to take a moment to look through this?
Yes.
Several pages before, and then if someone wants to make a motion in a second at that time.
One thing I'd like to point out is on page 15. If you notice, the drawing in the middle of the floor plan, this was submitted as a new toilet for players, but when it was submitted, there was a urinal there. So we've made them put a commode in there so they can, so the girls will be able to use that also.
Sure.
Good to know.
Yes, we'll do the labor, they'll, on concrete slab, and they'll do the, pay for the material. It's pretty common, we try to help them a little bit if we can. That's correct.
Is this a flat roof?
It'll be, a little, metal roof, it'll be pitch, but it'll
Oh,
be-
okay.
Page 15, kind of what you see.
I didn't know if that was my eyes or if that was the drawings.
It's not a very well-done drawing, but those metal roofs, you can put them down to 2 to 12 pitch, something like that. Some of them are 1.5 to 12.
Okay.
Well, let me ask a question here, just absolutely for clarification for our audience, and also because I don't know. $26,000. Where does that money come from? I know what it says here, but are they going to borrow some of it? I mean, what's the deal? Do we know?
They are going to, I guess, raise it with their booster club, the middle baseball booster club. They probably have some of the money now.
He says here that he does.
And then the 10,000 of it is coming from the Richard Siegel.
Grant? Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The Richard Siegel Foundation requires the grant money to be used on buildings that serve pretty much all the students. They will not let you, for instance, that's what got Blackman Middle in trouble recently, because there's no restrooms in it. And so they, would not accept that. They had to have the restrooms and the electricity to the building so everyone could use the building. So that's one reason you're seeing this serving the baseball and the softball. And the toilet room there goes from a men's to a women's and men's.
It needs to be understood by whoever might be watching that the taxpayers are not on the hook for this. Some future year, when the Booster Club, for whatever reason, they're responsible for it. That's what we need to say publicly, I guess. We are not.
Yes, and we'd also follow up with, it's amazing how much stuff is built every year by Boosters Club.
Agreed.
And fundraising that doesn't come out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Move to adopt as presented.
Mr. Holliday, and Mr. Estes is seconding. Further discussion? Mr. Estes?
Do they have the money to start?
They, Ms. Stover said they did.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I've learned that Williamson County is using a little different concept, and maybe something you want to go to for your new middles and high schools. They actually build an athletic building or something themselves for them, and they tell them to live with it. Each team will share it. They'll do what they need to do, but the district itself, rather than having lots of other little buildings and things constructed in what you are seeing, they've gone a different direction with it, so it may be something we as a board want to study. I don't know. As you go down the road, at some point, you have to start looking at those angles.
Well, they're getting ready to build a new facility, high school facility in Nolensville, I believe, so.
It's under construction.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I was out there a few weeks ago, and they're building another school. I think it's a middle school right beside it at the road. So
close to the elementary there?
Yes, it's right there beside it.
Okay, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah.
Good. Next.
One more item. This is the Lewis and Anna Elrod property. Lewis and Anna Elrod have agreed to sell approximately 9.45 acres adjacent to Oakland Middle School to the Board of Education, which the Rutherford County School Board has pursued for ball field relocation. The purchase price would be $575,000. The proposed contract and addendum showing the proposed purchase is attached with exhibits showing the possible location of the ball fields. The Elrods would reserve utility easements and have the right to access their remaining property through a street that the Board of Education would construct. The contract provides that the new street would be named Ann Lou Drive, provided the name is approved by the appropriate government bodies. Funds which can be used for the purchase have previously been approved by the Rutherford County Commission. Recommend approval of the motion to approve the purchase of the Lewis and Anna Elrod property pursuant to the attached contract as amended by the attachment and authorized by Chairman to execute the contract in all closing documents as approved by Board Attorney Jeff Reed.
Few minutes to peruse.
Mr. Reed, who's Ann Lou? Okay, thank you.
This was money already appropriated, which they've already given us this money. We just not closed a deal.
I have a question. The plat shows special flood hazard area tracking through the center of this property. It's perfect for ball fields. Any concerns with any of the structures that go around ball fields, like restrooms and such, things that may have to be code compliant?
There's a layout, and it has anything that's concerned up closer to the road, because the sewer's right there anyway. So,
Good.
I don't really have any concerns with it. There's so many recreational areas that are built in flood,
Right.
because it's not good for anything else.
Right.
This is one that's been on our plate for quite a while, so.
They have when you walk out of the gym, parking lot, driveway, parking lot in the back of the school, and then there's athletic fields all way back. This last one's a softball, beautiful baseball field there. And I think football and soccer both practice right there, do they not? I mean, it's a huge area. And that's where we're going to put the annex. We're going to move everything to the other side of the road, or there's something's not going to move. I know you told me before.
Football field, practice field, and soccer practice field will be down next to that subdivision towards the end of that street.
Okay.
It'll just slide down, the annex will go where the field is, and those
Okay.
ball fields will slide right across the road.
All right. Do bleachers and concession stand and restrooms go with that?
All of that
They're
will,
on here.
yeah, all of that'll be moved over there.
Man, this is a real good project.
Salvage what we can.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes, sir.
You wanted to make. Okay, Mr. Hodge?
Second, absolutely second.
Second by Mr. Jordan. Further discussion or any other questions? Again, this has been on our plate for a while, so. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, and we are very pleased.
He has an update and some projects. If you would like to do that tonight, it's up to you.
Board members, update on some projects?
Yes, please.
I'm getting nods.
I'll just go through it quickly. The John Coleman project, of course, we're putting in sediment controls and those types of things, and clearing the line out, clearing the property off. And the groundbreaking is tomorrow morning there at 9 a.m. And I'll just quickly show you some pictures there's where it's going. That's where the groundbreaking will be in the morning. You can see we're putting in erosion control around it. And then you can see the equipment over on the back side of it working. There's a fire hydrant that's got to be relocated. Lost my thing. There you go. And then Rocky Fork campus, we're still in the clearing stage. It's going to take just a little bit longer, and then it'll take 2 or 3 weeks to construct the pond. And then we'll finish clearing, and then we will start the final phase after that of getting everything, all the topographic survey and everything cut in, and get ready for the real site work. See here.
It's easier to tell people where it is now.
Yeah.
Well, it's right around the curve before you get to the interstate.
We've been real fortunate. We've been able to get burning permits up there. In Roy Waldron addition, we're putting the footings in. We've got some of the site done, putting conduits in, and the footings are coming to completion pretty quickly. You can see one of the ponds, some footings there. They had some bad soil, so they had to pour a flowable concrete fill in there and then pour the footings on top of that. That's part of the erosion, stormwater control. You can see the gentleman working on the footing. Then we're going to move to the capital projects, and these are schools that are going to get roofing. Barfield Elementary School is in the spring. We have Christiana Elementary School complete. We're starting the building here and putting a new roof. You'll recall we had a lot of hail damage, and so we're going to get the entire roof redone. Smyrna Middle School Annex is complete, and Laverne Primary will be on there next also. Chiller replacement, Smyrna Elementary School scheduled, Laverne Middle School scheduled, Blackman Middle School's complete, Blackman Elementary School's complete, and Siegel Middle School is scheduled. Paving and seal coating, we try to do a few of these every year to just kind of keep our paving and parking lots around our schools from being destroyed by the weather cycles. Projects this year: Stewartsboro Elementary, Las Casas Elementary, Riverdale High School, Cedar Grove, Barfield Elementary, Rockville Elementary, and Oakland High School. So we got a little bit of a late start on that. We're not going to be able to get a lot done, but we have 1 complete and 2 scheduled there, and then the rest of it will wait till spring. Bleacher and chair replacements or repairs. You can see that Smyrna Elementary School is ordered, and Christiana Middle School bleachers are complete, and Christiana Middle School auditorium is complete. In various capital projects, window replacement, Buchanan Elementary is the only school in the system that we haven't replaced the windows in. So we've been working on that for 12 years to get all of those replaced. We're finally getting it done. Those gold safety straps for school gyms are $140,673 when we got all of those ordered, and I think we're going to have some money left in that fund. But we've been questioned quite a bit on what those things are, and they go on the goals in case a cable breaks or something. It'll swing down, it'll respond like a seat belt and hold it up to keep it from swinging down in the crowd and breaking and maybe doing some damage.
Maybe they thought that was GOLD instead of GOAL.
Yeah. And the reason this came about is risk management from the county brought in some safety inspectors and wrote us up on it, so we're trying to get it done. Security blinds for buildings, they're all complete. Those went on some of the annexes at Oakland and Riverdale. And then in the spring, we're gonna redo the Laverne running track. And we've trying to do a track or two every year to keep those in good shape. And that's it.
I've been busy.
Security blinds, are these corrugated metal or?
No, I just call them that because you get in a situation where the windows are low to the ground, and if you have, some type of incident at the school with, so people can't see in and see what's going
I
on
got you.
in the
Okay,
classroom.
I got you, okay, yep.
Any question?
Another outstanding performance, Mr. Clardy. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of information. Okay. We are going to be back together tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. So we've had quite a bit of time together this week. So anything else?
Will we have golden shovels in the morning like we had at Montlow to break the ground? Do you know?
We do.
Will Mr. Estes be on that bulldozer that?
I might add that they're gold-plated, they're not solid.
Oh. Will Mr. Estes be on the bulldozer? I want to know. You will?
I'm sure he can operate one.
I'm sure he can.
Again, the groundbreaking for John Coleman Elementary is at 9 o'clock sharp, Ms. Joyce, first thing in the morning. And we have various county officials along with school board members, so hope everyone can be there. So, okay, see everybody either in the morning or tomorrow evening. We stand adjourned.